Welcome to Rivers in the Wasteland. I'm your host, Amanda Williams, and today I'm going to share with you some follow-up thoughts to a previous episode. A few months ago, I shared an episode called He's in the Waiting, the Story of Isabel. It's all about our journey of waiting to get pregnant with our second daughter. God brought us through secondary infertility, and we learned so much along the way. If you haven't listened to that one yet, I encourage you to either pause this one and go back to episode 4, or just go back after you're done listening to this one. I came across an old post that shared a story that took place right in the middle of that journey, and I just had to share it with you all. I feel like we're a little community now, right? So in 2018, I went to Guatemala, and I think I shared with you guys before that that's something that I had been doing every summer. So in 2018, we had our trip over that summer, and while I was there, I had a major breakthrough. I had been struggling before we left, and the Lord spoke to me during a moment of ministry where our group of missionaries literally saw someone who was mute speak for the first time. It was crazy. We experienced a miracle right before our eyes. I have never seen anything like it. Everyone in the room was crying and receiving in that moment. Our leader told us that if there was something that we wanted from the Lord, that we should ask him right then because he was present there with us. And I just lost it. I wept so hard. And honestly, I think everybody in the room was weeping because something was heavy on their hearts. And I remember just crying out, Lord, I'm trying to be content. I am trying so hard. I want your will for my life. Like, that's what I want. But I also really want a baby. At the time, there was this longing inside for our family to grow, and it hurt to not know if that was ever going to happen. And so I was just standing there, just ugly crying before the Lord and everybody else in the room, just putting it all out there. And when I did that, I just felt this wave of his presence wash over me. And I felt him say, the vision you have is a vision I gave you. You didn't come up with that on your own. I planted that deep inside of you, and I don't intend to leave that place in your heart void. You will see it come to pass. You will bear more children, and you will continue to see your family grow, but in my timing, not yours. Now, the vision that he's talking about is the picture that I talked about in episode 4 of our family of 6 in front of a tree. That is the vision that he was referring to. And how amazing is that he literally referred to that vision because he knew that I was so fixated on what I saw. And he just reminded me that it was from him, but I was going to see it come in his timing and not mine. It's seriously just what I needed. Right before our trip, I was so weary and confused. Why was it so easy to get pregnant the first time? Now it's so hard. I don't understand. Why did we have to walk through the journey that we're walking through? The word I received from him was the perfect reminder that when God gives us a promise, he doesn't always reveal his timeline. And it's our job to remain faithful and trust that he will bring it to pass when he decides it's the right time. I seriously went home from that trip and from that experience, and I wasted no time transitioning things that I needed to transition. I had been kind of in this holding pattern where I kept the nursery a nursery because I was convinced that I was going to have another baby coming soon, but I really needed an office because at that time I was still in the middle of having my business. And so when I got home, I packed away all the baby stuff. And that was really hard, putting tape on boxes that I didn't know when I was going to get to open them up again. But the process was so much better because I had that promise from the Lord reignited in my soul. I just remember I felt like I was trading a veil of grief for a garment of praise. I was so excited. The Lord had met me and I had an encounter with him that just shifted everything in my heart. I was thankful for where I was, and I was embracing the journey and standing again on the promise that was given me. I wish I could say that after that shift in my heart getting in the right spot, that voila, I had passed all of the tests and I got pregnant, but that didn't happen. It had already been such a long journey, but after that, I was reminded about his timeline, and it made all the difference. I just had to keep walking it out. At the time, we had just purchased a house. We were moving from one house to another. And so I was able to finally let go of that stress and just focus on transitioning our little family that we had, our family of 3. At the beginning of that year, we're coming out of a really rough, at the beginning of the next year, 2019, we actually were coming out of a really rough spot. We had sold our home, which the home buying and selling process was not really very smooth at all. We've actually never really had a smooth buying process. But the end of that year, 2018, was just chaotic. I had totaled my car. We had a home buyer fell through at the last second. We actually had 2 members of our family diagnosed with cancer. It was just a really chaotic time. So we really needed to focus and pray. We knew what our prayers were and that the Lord cared about them. We did. We were sure of that. But it needed to go beyond that. We knew that year that we would truly have to lay them down and trust that He was going to bring them to pass rather than laying them back down, picking them back up again. And I know we've talked about this on here before, how you surrender it, let it hang out at His feet for a bit while you enjoy your contentment. And then you get a little bit bored, maybe need a little drama back in your life, and you pick it up again. Honestly, I know that we all do it. Okay, it's probably not for drama, but more for control. And for some reason, we think us fumbling around with our needs and our emotions is safer than setting them at the feet of our Creator. That's just crazy. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why? We had decided at that time during the year that we were going to lay it down and leave it there, stand on His promise. And there was something powerful about doing that as a couple. We were standing together in unity for the same request. We had prayed about it before, but it was just different. After that encounter that I had had the summer before and just a few months of contentment and really being focused in, it was just different. I don't know. It just really felt like I had a shift and the surrender was genuine and it was long lasting. And, I talk about this in the other episode, kind of all the things that snowballed. And then I was pregnant by March of 2019. And so again, go back and listen to that story. But as I was looking over these thoughts, I realized that if we aren't careful, we will take something that is just part of our journey and we will create this huge alternative plot line where we're the victim and the one thing we want in life is hopelessly out of our reach. We'll see everything through that lens and ultimately get sucked into that reality, which causes us to totally miss the goodness of the season that we are in. I believe that there is always goodness to be found. Joy is always possible. Even during my most difficult times, God was always moving in some way. His blessings were completely obvious in other areas of my life, but I was so focused on not being able to have a baby that I wasn't fully acknowledging the goodness and blessings that He was giving me. During this season, we knew we had to make peace with the waiting. There is nothing comfortable about the waiting, but I do believe there's an opportunity to draw close to the Lord that just is not available when we're in a winning season. It's a different kind of intimacy when things aren't going right and you have to press in for not only comfort and guidance, but sometimes to literally see straight. The waiting is where we find out how powerful, how tender, and how compassionate God really is. He walks with us each step and He makes sure that we don't have to do it all alone. He holds us so close when we can't be strong anymore, and He whispers His truths, which can chase away the loudest lies of the enemy. He reminds us that though we aren't where we want to be, we are exactly where He has for us that very moment. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel so free. It really does. Don't lose hope, you guys. Don't allow yourself to live in the alternate reality where that is the focal part of your story. It's part of your story, but it's not the whole thing. The place that you are that you don't want to be anymore, it's not the end. You're in the middle of a testimony. There is still so much goodness in your life, and joy is possible for you this very day. Lay it down and leave it there. And know that if you've been given a promise, you will see it come to pass. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, or if this podcast has been a blessing in your life, please leave a review or rating on your favorite platform. And don't forget to subscribe or follow so you'll be notified of all upcoming episodes. Remember that God is at work today in mighty ways, ready to make rivers in the wasteland. If He can do it for me, I know He can do it for you.